What's up, guys, and welcome to another episode of the Bubba Speed Career Mode. And Bubba is currently sitting first in the Moto3 standings, up by 5 points over Mazia, and 18 points. Actually, wow, my brain is mush. 28 points over Antonelli, who is in third. So far, so good. He has 2 wins to his name. One in, one in Austin, and what was the other one? I don't even know. Was it Rio? Yeah, I think it was Argentina. So yeah, I think he has, that should be 2 wins to his name. Other one is a second place, and he actually has an offer from Siege 58 Squadra Corsa. So that's actually one of the better teams in the class. And basically, I did a quick search to make sure that I was right about this. And essentially, you can sign this contract for 1 year, which means at the start of the next season, unless you move up to a different class, then you will be racing for the team that you sign with. So unless Bubba decides to move up to Moto2, which is very likely if he wins the championship, then he will be racing for Sitch next season. So we'll just have to see what happens. Regardless, already guaranteed to be racing on a good team next season if he does decide to stay in Moto3. And he actually qualified on pole in Jerez. Now this is a track where I feel like Bubba can definitely get a W. It's not going to be easy because, of course, you know, Jerez is a track where it's going to be a lot more technical than some of the other ones. So let's just say that, yes, you know, that might favor Bubba in the sense that top speed is definitely still an issue. But at the same time, you know, this game just came out. So I'm still trying to get used to the steering. Still trying to, you know, get used to really not having to rely too much on the brakes. Like, in this game, you will turn if you let off the brakes. And a lot of times, you know, haven't been so used to the previous games where steering was definitely not a good thing about the game. I still have these moments where I just hit the brakes in situations where it really isn't helpful at all. And one thing to take into consideration, guys, is I actually raised the difficulty by 10. So yeah, now that should be a lot more entertaining, going to be a lot more difficult, and I look forward to seeing if the AI improves as well. Already I think saw a crash, and that is something that you see pretty often. That's a good thing to see, is, you know, people just crashing out on their own, not having to do something, not always crashing only in a situation where you're actually directly involved. So that's actually really, really good to see. And it does seem like people do pass, you know, between the AI a lot more often. Like I remember, you know, Mazzi, I think, started off pretty badly in one of the previous races and ended up finishing second. So it's just good to see. It is really, really good to see, like, dynamic battles and dynamic racers in general, as opposed to just the same 2 guys always being at the front and starting off in the same positions and all that stuff. So it's just really, really good to see. And right now, Bubba's having a hard time keeping up with the top guys. And of course, the important thing is staying ahead of Mazia. That's pretty much the main goal here, is always consistently being in front of whoever is directly behind him in the championship standings. And there you go. Mazia is actually currently 6th. Now Antonelli is 1st, so that's not the best. Of course, he's third in the standings, so it would be ideal for Bubba to maintain a decent gap between him and Antonelli as well. But you can't really control everything. You just try to get the best performance possible. And talking about Jerez, you know, MotoGP 19, I think Jerez was actually really, really well done, and I just feel like this game gets it even better. It's just, with the improved steering, all these tracks, and you're going to hear me saying it pretty much every single time I do a race, or I would say in this first season, just because it really does feel so good. But these technical tracks in particular, they just feel so much more fun. It's like you feel like you're actually able to get the best out of the bikes, as opposed to just constantly having to struggle through turns and bang into people to actually get through them. Like right here, this hairpin, and hairpins are pretty much the same everywhere, but this one is always one that's giving me a lot of problems, having to get the lines correct. And of course, this is a turn where you don't have to hit the brakes, and it's just really, really rewarding to go through this, as Bubba is currently in 4th position, really close to the top 3 guys. So far so good, trying to just make sure that he stays as close as possible and not consuming too much fuel. If you can look at in the bottom right corner, of course you can see the HUD, and I do actually have to report that I've made some new discoveries. Now it appears that the function that actually takes away the most fuel isn't power, it's traction control. So that was something I didn't expect to see, but I did discover it through doing a lot of practice sessions and stuff like that. And yeah, essentially, if you have traction control set to 3 and power set to 2, then you're going to consume a lot more than with traction control set to 4 or 3 and whatever. You know, you get the point. Traction control is the one that ruins you a lot. And of course, Bubba actually is a solid second faster than Antonelli in that lap, so definitely showing that he's fast as shit, essentially. He's extremely fast, and he crashes out. No skip or no restart will be had here. That's not going to happen. Like I said, a restart will only happen if I get crashed out by the AI doing something stupid, or if I like run out of fuel or something like that. Other than that, if I make a mistake, I'm going to pay for it, and I absolutely made a mistake in there. Went too hot. Didn't take into consideration how much slower they were going to be going to that turn, considering how late I was on the brakes, and it cost me. And a penalty there too, 0.3, so that's a pretty sizable penalty, especially considering how much ground we have to make in basically 2.5 laps. So that really could be devastating, considering Mazia is right there. He's in 5th position or 4th position. No, okay, he's in 4th right now. So we desperately need to get past him, and we definitely need to get as much ground as possible between us and him. That's going to be, I'm not going to say that's going to be essential, because of course it's still early on in the season and a lot can still happen. Hell, Bubba could actually end up being multiple positions behind him in the standings. You never know. But as of right now, going into a series of tracks that should be favorable for Bubba, you know, we have Le Mans, we have Mugello, we have Catalunya, then Sachsenring. These are all tracks that Bubba can really dominate on, and you know, if he can go into into that part of the calendar with a good gap, then that's going to be very, very, very promising for the title picture. And of course, there's still 2.5, not 2.5, but almost only 2 laps left. But there's still time for Bubba to make that ground. He's shown that he is fast enough to do so, and look at how much he gains in this last sector right here. You can actually see the tires just getting destroyed. I mean, it's kind of cool to see, actually. I mean, look at the effects there. Like, it's actually really, really cool to see. But at the same time, it's not good because your tires are getting worn down. Now, I will say one thing, like, the tire system in this game is also a lot better. I don't know if I've mentioned that before, but I just feel like the tires, they don't wear down as ridiculously fast as they do in the previous game. And that's a very, very welcome thing, because it's cool to have, you know, tire consumption and all that stuff, but I just feel like sometimes it was overboard. Like, you could have hard tires, and then after 2 or 3 laps, you would be completely destroyed. And I get that it's, you know, proportionate to you know what it's supposed to be like with a full race, and I understand that, but at the same time, it's just like, I mean, hard tires aren't supposed to be destroyed like that. It's just not really how they work. But good to see that they actually have fixed that. And now Bubba, this is a part where you can gain a lot of ground. I mean, look how much ground he gained on Mazia and Migno. I mean, gained a solid second there probably, and has already gotten past Migno, and he is right on Mazia's ass. Going to this turn, doesn't have, like I said, don't have to hit the brakes, don't have to let off, don't have to do nothing. Somehow got another penalty there. I don't know if we got it right there in that turn or earlier on, but regardless, have another 0.2 of a second penalty, which is definitely not something you want to see, considering, like I said, you know, Mazia, you know, he's probably gonna be right on our ass for the entire race, or at least the rest of it. So, need to have as much of a gap as possible in order to have a solid chance of finishing above him, which at this point isn't looking like it's gonna be too easy, especially because we only have 0.16 left of fuel, so we're gonna have to lower down the power. We're gonna have to keep traction control up. We're gonna have to try to play it safe, and essentially hope to get enough ground between us and Mazia to comfortably get, you know, a half a second above him in the standings. No penalty there. That was definitely rather risky, considering we touched the grass, and that's a death sentence in this game. See what our time is: a 154.8, which is the fastest lap of the race, and a solid 3 or 4 tenths faster than the previous fastest lap. So, looking really, really good for Bubba. Can he actually get up to the top 3? I mean, that's not necessarily out of the picture. I mean, they're right there. If they're what, 2.5 seconds, I think. The only thing that worries me is that we only have 1.1 left in fuel. So, we're going to have to lower it down pretty quickly. There you go, lowering it down to 1. Because you can't really risk it. I mean, fuel consumption is a very, very big deal in this game. And like I said before, I like that a lot. It adds something to it, and it makes you have to worry about it. And the only thing I have is that I'm still not 100% used to it. So I find myself a lot of times struggling to concentrate on the race while I'm actually paying attention to the HUD, and that leads me to make a few mistakes here and there. And I think that kind of It cost me maybe in qualifying. I think there was a part where I was actually like a second faster than anybody else on the track, and lost track of it because I was actually on, I was basically doing my last lap with soft tires and all that stuff, and was almost out of fuel. Looked down, completely lost my focus, ended up crashing into somebody. And if that happens in a race, that's a lot more devastating than it is in qualifying. Let me tell you. Hopefully that won't happen down the line, but I'm pretty sure eventually mistakes will be made due to that until I get used to it. And it's just one of those things where you just have to kind of have your brain make it automatic, and it's not something that's necessarily easy to do, especially because I've been playing pretty much every other MotoGP game for the last, borderline 20 years now, and they've never had something like that. So it's not going to be easy to get used to, but once I do get used to it, I feel like it's going to be second nature, and it's going to be even more of a welcome addition. Meanwhile, Bubba, going into the final lap, he is 2.3 seconds back, so third place is looking like it's going to be just out of reach. But the good news is there is a very sizable gap between himself and Mazia, who I would assume is still in fifth. I haven't seen his name pop up. I haven't really been paying attention if it pops up as you cross the line. But let's just go ahead and say it's still Mazia, just to be safe. And yeah, there's definitely way over a second. All right, so 2.4, so lost ground. There you go. Mazia is 2.1 behind Bubba. So he can take his time, he can be calm, and he can take it pretty smoothly. Doesn't have to worry too much, as long as he doesn't make any mistakes. And of course, going into this part right here should gain even more ground, because they start braking way earlier than Bubba, and that's probably smart on their point, because I feel like they probably come out of the turns better. And Bubba maybe loses a bit of ground from that point of view, but I just feel like you can brake so much later than the AI does there, and that might just be a matter of the difficulty. Like I said, it's on advanced, so you would expect it to be pretty difficult. And technically, I mean, like, we're not gaining on them, so I feel like that's probably the right difficulty for me at this point in time. Eventually, probably will start to raise it a bit more. But yeah, all things considered, I feel like that's probably the perfect difficulty for the time being. And Bubba, going into the last 3 or 4 turns, he's still about 2 seconds away from third place, so it's probably going to be a little bit too far from to actually gain, especially having to worry about the... Oh my god, look at the fuel in the bottom. 0.2. It's not the end right now, but it's going to be cut very close. 0.2. Can he get... all he has to do is get across the line. That's all it has. That's all it has to worry about. 0.1. We're basically cutting it as close as close can be, and Bubba breathes a sigh of relief for getting across the line in time, and there you go. Finishes, easily over half a second in front of Mazia. So, gained more points, and Suzuki actually finished first, which is excellent for the standings, because that could have been a good chance for Antonetti to really gain a lot of points. Instead, he doesn't gain anywhere near as much. And Bubba maintains a decent lead. He's up to, let's see, 4 plus 3, that's 7 points. And then he's 20, yeah, oh wow, it just says right there, I'm so stupid. And Antonelli is 21 points back. So, a decent gap right here going into Le Mans, which, like I said earlier, is a solid track for Bubba. I've been playing Le Mans in multiple games for essentially 20 years now. So, I feel like I have all the tools to go out there and dominate in Le Mans. And then, of course, there's Mugello and Catalunya, same thing as Le Mans. Been playing on them for decades now, and have definitely all the tools to go out there and get the W, unless mistakes end up being made, which is always possible. It has to be said. And overall, I'm really enjoying this game, and I'm really enjoying dominating with Bubba, especially after last season where we had a rough start, finishing I think 4th in Qatar, and then had a hard time dealing with Canet, who really started to turn it up, and then had a difficult time in Austria and some tracks like that. So hopefully, in an ideal world, we'll be a decent amount of points above Mazia or whoever else is going to be second at that time, by the time we get to Austria and some of the more difficult tracks. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell, which is the best way you can support a small channel like mine. And let me know in the comments whether or not you think Bubba can actually go all the way this season, win the title, and then move up to Moto 2. And definitely let me know in the comments if you have any recommendations, any tips, and if I'm doing anything wrong. I absolutely am open to any of your tips. And thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.